5-year-old twins told their father what their stepmother was doing at night, so he decided to hide under the bed. A few minutes later, he was shocked by what he discovered. The late afternoon sun bathed the well-kept garden, its vibrant colors reflecting the joy radiating from two small figures running among the flowers. Emily and Olivia, identical 5-year-old twins, were like butterflies in constant motion, their laughter echoing across the property like a charming melody. Emily, with her golden curls bouncing at every step, chased a bright blue butterfly dancing in the air, always out of reach. "Come here, you pretty butterfly," she called, her high-pitched voice full of determination and childlike fascination. Olivia, on the other hand, crouched near a bed of daisies, her green eyes shining with curiosity as she watched a ladybug travel the winding path of a leaf. "Look, Em, I found a real ladybug," Olivia exclaimed, lifting her gaze to her sister. Emily immediately abandoned her chase after the butterfly, running over to join her. The two girls, dressed in matching denim overalls and colorful t-shirts, knelt together, their heads almost touching as they marveled at the tiny red insect. From a window on the second floor of the imposing Victorian-style house, Michael watched his daughters with a tender smile on his lips. At 38, the successful businessman exuded an aura of confidence and charm, but his dark brown eyes carried a shadow of melancholy. Widowed for 3 years, Michael devoted every spare moment to his precious daughters, determined to fill the void left by the loss of their mother. Running a hand through his dark hair, lightly graying at the temples, Michael took a deep breath, feeling a mix of gratitude and nostalgia. The twins were the living image of his late wife, Sarah. Each smile, each burst of laughter was a bittersweet reminder of the love he had lost and the abundant love he still had. The sound of tires at the garage entrance caught Michael's attention. He glanced at his wristwatch, a gift from his father when he took over the family business. 4:30. Rachel was home earlier than usual. As if answering a silent call, the twins lifted their heads in unison, their faces lighting up when they saw Rachel's car pull in. "Mommy, Rachel is here!" they shouted in unison, abandoning their fascination with the ladybug and running toward the garage. Michael headed downstairs, his heart beating slightly faster. After 2 years as a widower, meeting Rachel had been like a ray of sunshine after a long storm. Their quick marriage, just 6 months after they met, had raised some eyebrows, but Michael knew in his heart it was right. Rachel had brought joy back into the house, and the girls adored her. Rachel stepped out of the car, her slender, elegant figure contrasting with the shopping bags she carried. Her long brown hair brushed her shoulders as she bent down to receive the twins' enthusiastic hug. "My little princesses," she exclaimed, her melodic voice filled with affection. "I have a surprise for you." The girls' eyes went wide with excitement. "What is it, Mommy Rachel, what is it?" they asked in unison, jumping in anticipation. Rachel laughed, a bright sound that echoed across the garden. "Let's go inside and I'll show you," she said, exchanging a knowing look with Michael, who now stood at the front door, watching the scene with a warm smile. Inside, in the spacious living room decorated with a harmonious mix of antiques and modern pieces, Rachel handed each girl a package. Emily and Olivia tore the wrapping paper with childlike enthusiasm, revealing 2 lovely princess dresses, one in sky blue and the other in soft pink. "They're real princess dresses," Emily shouted, holding the blue one against her chest. "Just like Disney princesses," Olivia added, already spinning around with the pink dress. Michael watched the scene, his heart overflowing with happiness. Rachel approached him, slipping an arm around his waist. "Aren't they adorable?" she murmured, resting her head on his shoulder. "They're perfect," Michael replied, kissing Rachel's forehead gently. "Just like you." Night fell gently over the Hartley house, bringing with it the tempting aroma of dinner being prepared. In the spacious, modern kitchen, Rachel moved gracefully between the stove and the central island, putting the finishing touches on an elaborate ratatouille, while Michael opened a bottle of red wine. The twins, still wearing their new princess dresses, sat at the dining room table, coloring excitedly in their activity books. The clink of silverware being laid out by Michael blended with the occasional giggles from the girls, creating a perfect domestic symphony. "Girls, time to put away your coloring books," Rachel called, her voice soft yet firm. "Dinner's almost ready." Emily and Olivia promptly obeyed, putting away their crayons and books before running off to wash their hands. Michael watched them with a smile, amazed at how perfectly Rachel had adapted to the role of mother. Soon the family was gathered at the table, the delicious aroma of ratatouille filling the air. Michael poured a small glass of grape juice for each of the girls, making them feel grown up as they toasted with the adults. "To our family," Michael said, raising his wine glass. "To our family," Rachel and the twins echoed, the clinking of their glasses sealing the moment of unity. Conversation flowed naturally during dinner, with the twins eagerly sharing their day's adventures in the garden. Rachel listened attentively, asking questions and laughing at the fantastic stories the girls wove. "And then the ladybug said it wanted to be a princess too," Olivia concluded, her eyes shining with excitement. "But ladybugs can't talk, silly," Emily corrected, rolling her eyes in a surprisingly mature way for a 5-year-old. "In my story, they do," Olivia retorted, pouting. Rachel intervened gently, avoiding a potential conflict. "What a wonderful story, Olivia. Maybe we can write a book about the ladybug princess tomorrow. What do you two think?" The twins agreed enthusiastically, their little disagreement forgotten in the face of a new adventure. Michael watched the interaction with a mix of admiration and gratitude. Rachel had a gift for dealing with the girls, always knowing exactly what to say to calm them or spark their imagination. After dessert, a delicious homemade apple pie that made the twins lick their lips, Rachel began clearing the table. Michael got up to help, but she stopped him with a gentle gesture. "You had a long day at the office, sweetheart," she said affectionately. "Why don't you take the girls upstairs and put them to bed?" "I'll handle things here." Michael nodded, grateful for Rachel's thoughtfulness. He took Emily and Olivia by the hand, guiding them upstairs amid sleepy protests that they weren't tired. In the twins' bedroom, decorated with an enchanted forest theme, Michael helped them change from their princess dresses into soft pajamas. As he tucked them in, he couldn't help but notice the look they exchanged, a look that seemed to carry more than simple drowsiness. "Is everything all right, my little ones?" he asked, sitting on the edge of Emily's bed. The twins exchanged another quick glance before Emily spoke, her voice a hesitant whisper. "Daddy, we saw something strange." Michael leaned in, intrigued. "What did you see, sweetheart?" But before Emily could continue, the sound of footsteps in the hallway caused both girls to fall abruptly silent. Rachel appeared in the doorway, her face lit by a loving smile. "Ready for bed, my princesses?" she asked, coming closer to give each one a goodnight kiss. Michael watched the girls accept Rachel's kisses, but he couldn't help noticing a slight tension in their small bodies. Puzzled, he decided he would speak to them in the morning, when Rachel wasn't around. "Good night, my darlings," Michael said, kissing Emily and Olivia's foreheads. "Dream of angels." As he and Rachel left the room, leaving the door slightly ajar, Michael cast one last glance at his daughters. In the darkness, lit only by the soft glow of a mushroom-shaped nightlight, he saw the twins move closer, their heads almost touching as they whispered something he couldn't make out. A slight unease settled in Michael's chest as he followed Rachel to the couple's bedroom. What could his daughters have seen that they couldn't talk about in front of Rachel? Probably nothing, he tried to reassure himself. 5-year-olds have vivid imaginations after all. But as he got ready for bed, that look the twins had shared continued to haunt him. There was something in that look, a mix of fear and secrecy, that didn't fit the cheerful, harmonious atmosphere of their apparently perfect family. Michael fell asleep with one unsettling thought. Sometimes appearances can be deceiving, even in a seemingly happy home. The silence of the night enveloped the Hartley home like a soft blanket, interrupted only by the gentle hum of the air conditioning and the occasional rustle of curtains in the night breeze. In the twins' room, Emily and Olivia slept soundly, their breathing synchronized in a peaceful rhythm. Suddenly, Emily stirred in her bed, her eyes opening slowly. Something had awakened her, an almost imperceptible sound that didn't belong to the usual nocturnal symphony of the house. She sat up, rubbing her sleepy eyes, and strained her ears. There it was again, a low, whispered voice coming from the hallway. Emily immediately recognized Rachel's gentle tone, but there was something different in her inflection, something cold and calculating that sent a chill down her spine. "Liv," Emily whispered, turning toward her sister's bed. "Liv, wake up," Olivia grumbled, turning over. Determined, Emily got up and gently shook her sister's shoulder. "Liv, please, Mommy Rachel is saying something outside." At last, Olivia opened her eyes, curiosity replacing her sleepiness as she saw the worried look on Emily's face. "What is it, Em?" she mumbled, sitting up in bed. "Shh!" Emily gestured for Olivia to be quiet, pointing to the bedroom door. The two girls remained still, listening intently. Rachel's voice came again, clearer now that both were awake. "Yes, everything is going according to plan," they heard Rachel say, her voice barely above a whisper. "That idiot suspects nothing." Emily and Olivia traded alarmed looks. Who was the idiot? Why was Rachel talking like this? Driven by curiosity and fear, the twins silently slid out of their beds and crept toward the door. Emily, always the braver one, opened a small crack, just enough for both to peek into the dark hallway. Rachel stood with her back to them, leaning against the opposite wall. She held her phone firmly to her ear, her posture tense and alert. The girls barely dared to breathe, afraid of being caught. "The plan is progressing perfectly," Rachel continued in a hissing whisper. "Soon, we'll have everything we deserve. Revenge will be sweet, Dad." Emily felt Olivia grab her hand, squeezing it tightly. "Revenge? Dad?" The words echoed in the girls' minds, laden with a dark meaning they couldn't fully grasp. "No, I can't say more," Rachel said abruptly. "I have to go. I'll be in touch again when it's safe." With a soft click, the call ended. Rachel stood still for a moment, her silhouette outlined by the faint light coming from the hallway window. The twins held their breath, their hearts pounding so hard they feared Rachel might hear them. Slowly, Rachel turned and started walking toward the twins' room. Emily quickly closed the door, taking care not to make a sound. She and Olivia ran back to their beds, pulling the blankets up to their chins and pretending to sleep. The door opened quietly, and they felt more than saw Rachel step into the room. There was a pause, during which Emily was certain her heart was beating so loudly that Rachel couldn't help but hear it. But after a moment, that seemed like an eternity. The door closed again, and Rachel's footsteps faded down the hallway. The twins waited until the last echo of footsteps disappeared before sitting up in bed, looking at each other in the dim light of the room. What was that?" Olivia whispered, her voice trembling with fear. Emily shook her head, unable to find words to express her confusion and fear. "I don't know, Liv, but it doesn't look good." "She said something about revenge," Olivia murmured, hugging her teddy bear tightly. "And she called someone an idiot. Do you think she was talking about Daddy?" Emily felt a lump form in her throat. The idea that Rachel, the woman they had learned to love as a second mother, could be plotting something against their father was almost unbearable. "We have to tell Daddy," Emily said finally, her voice growing more resolute with the decision. "Tomorrow morning, before Mommy Rachel wakes up," Olivia nodded, her big eyes wide and frightened in the darkness. "What if she gets mad at us?" Emily reached out and took her sister's hand. "It doesn't matter. Daddy needs to know. He'll protect us." The twins stayed awake for a long time afterward, whispering theories and fears, finding comfort in each other's presence. When they finally fell asleep, their dreams were haunted by shadows and threatening whispers. Meanwhile, in her own bedroom, Rachel sat on the edge of the bed, an old photo in her hands. The moonlight streaming through the window illuminated the image of a middle-aged man, his face marked by lines of worry, but his eyes glowing with fierce determination. Rachel traced the outline of the man's face with her finger, her expression a mixture of love and resolve. "It's almost done, Dad," she murmured to the photo. "Soon everything will be as it should." She placed the photo in a drawer of the bedside table and lay down next to Michael, who slept soundly, unaware of the whirlwind of emotions and secrets stirring within his wife. Rachel closed her eyes, a cold smile playing on her lips as she surrendered to sleep. The plan was in motion, and nothing, not even two curious little twins, could stop her now. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee and toast filled the Hartley kitchen the following morning. Michael was already seated at the table, skimming the newspaper while sipping his first cup of the day. Rachel moved gracefully around the kitchen, making breakfast for the family. The sound of hurried footsteps on the stairs announced Emily and Olivia's arrival. The twins entered the kitchen hand in hand, their faces marked by a seriousness unusual for 5-year-old girls. "Good morning, my princesses." Michael smiled, putting down the newspaper to give his full attention to his daughters. "Good morning, Daddy," they replied in unison, their voices quieter than usual. Rachel turned away from the stove, a radiant smile on her face. "Hello, darlings. Did you sleep well?" The girls exchanged a quick glance before nodding silently. Michael noticed their hesitation, a light crease forming on his forehead in concern. "Daddy," Emily began, her voice trembling slightly, "can we talk to you about something?" Michael nodded, setting aside the newspaper. "Of course, my love. What is it?" Olivia opened her mouth to speak, but just then, Rachel placed 2 plates of pancakes in front of the girls. "Here you go, my little ones. Pancakes with strawberry syrup, your favorites." The twins looked at the pancakes, then at Rachel, and finally at Michael. The hesitation on their faces was palpable. "Thank you, Mommy Rachel," Olivia murmured, picking up her fork without enthusiasm. Michael observed the scene with growing concern. His daughter's behavior was clearly out of character. He was about to insist they tell him what was bothering them when Rachel interrupted again. "Michael, darling, don't forget we have that lunch with the investors today," she said, sitting down at the table with her own cup of coffee. "It's very important for the company," Michael nodded, remembering the commitment. "Oh, right. Thanks for reminding me, sweetheart." The twins lowered their eyes to their plates, poking at their pancakes without really eating. The rest of breakfast passed in an unusual silence, broken only by Rachel's occasional attempts to start a conversation. When he finished his coffee, Michael stood up, kissing Rachel on the cheek. "I need to go. I have an early meeting today." He leaned down to kiss the twins, noticing how they seemed to want to say something but held back. "Be good for Mommy, Rachel, okay? Daddy loves you." With one last worried look at his daughters, Michael left, leaving behind a heavy silence in the kitchen. The day at the office was a blur for Michael. His mind kept drifting back to his daughter's strange behavior during breakfast. Between meetings and phone calls, he found himself glancing at the photo of the girls on his desk, worried about what could be upsetting his normally cheerful, carefree daughters. When he finally got home in the late afternoon, Michael found the twins playing in the garden under Rachel's watchful eye. But even from a distance, he could see something was off. The girls played in silence, their movements mechanical, lacking their usual joy and energy. "Hey, family," he called, forcing a cheerful tone in his voice. Rachel turned, smiling. "Hello, darling, how was your day?" The twins looked up, their eyes lighting up when they saw their father. "Daddy!" they shouted in unison, running to meet him. Michael knelt, hugging his daughters tightly. He could feel the tension in their small bodies, reinforcing his concern. "Hey, how about we all go get some ice cream?" Rachel suggested, walking over to the group. "I think we deserve a treat after a long day." The girls looked at their father as if asking for permission. Michael nodded, hoping that a family outing might ease the tension he felt emanating from his daughters. The afternoon at the ice cream parlor was pleasant, but Michael couldn't help noticing how Emily and Olivia kept looking around, as if on guard. They answered Rachel's questions with short, forced responses, their smiles never fully reaching their eyes. Back at home after dinner, Michael decided it was time to find out what was going on. While Rachel cleaned up in the kitchen, he took the girls to his upstairs office. "All right, my little ones," he began, sitting in his leather chair and pulling the twins onto his lap. "I want you to tell me what's going on. You've been so quiet and worried today. Is something bothering you?" Emily and Olivia exchanged nervous glances, and for a moment, Michael thought they wouldn't speak. But then, like a bursting dam, the words began to flow. "Daddy," Emily started, her voice trembling slightly. "Last night, we heard Mommy Rachel talking on the phone." "She was whispering," Olivia added, her big eyes filled with fear. "And saying strange things," Michael frowned, a sinking feeling forming in his stomach. "What kind of strange things, sweethearts?" The twins took turns telling Michael everything they had heard. The mention of a plan, the word revenge, a reference to Rachel's father. Michael listened in silence, his expression growing more serious as their story unfolded. When the girls finished, tears glistened in both pairs of eyes. "Daddy," Emily sobbed, "is Mommy Rachel planning something bad?" Michael hugged his daughters tightly, his heart breaking at their distress, but his mind struggling to process what he had heard. Part of him wanted to dismiss immediately the idea that Rachel could be plotting something. After all, she had brought so much happiness into their lives in the past months. But another part, the part that always trusted his daughter's instincts, couldn't completely ignore their worries. "Listen, my princesses," he said at last, his voice calm and reassuring. "I'm very glad you told me this. That was very brave of you." "You believe us, Daddy?" Olivia asked, her voice small and hopeful. Michael hesitated for a moment. "I believe that you heard something that scared you," he said carefully. "But sometimes, when we only hear part of a conversation, especially at night, we can misunderstand what's being said." The twins looked disappointed, and Michael hurried to continue. "But I promise you, I'm going to look into this, okay? I'll pay very close attention and see if I notice anything strange." Emily and Olivia nodded, looking slightly more at ease. Michael hugged them again, feeling the weight of responsibility bearing down on him. He loved Rachel. He trusted her, but his daughter's well-being would always come first. After putting the girls to bed, Michael found himself sitting alone in his office, an untouched glass of whiskey before him. His mind was awash with conflicting thoughts, replaying not only the conversation he'd had with his daughters, but also the past months since Rachel had entered their lives. He vividly recalled the day they met. It was at an art gallery, during an exhibition by a mutual friend. Rachel was standing in front of an abstract painting, her delicate profile illuminated by the gallery's soft lighting. Michael, who rarely felt attracted to anyone since his wife's death, felt inexplicably drawn to her. They talked for hours that night about art, literature, and their lives. Rachel spoke of her work as a financial consultant, her passion for travel, and the recent loss of her father. Michael, in turn, opened up about the pain of losing his wife and the challenges of raising two young daughters alone. The romance that followed was like a whirlwind. Rachel was everything Michael could have wanted in a partner: intelligent, caring, and wonderful with the twins. In just 6 months, they were married, and Rachel had moved into the Hartley home, bringing a new wave of joy and stability. But now, sitting alone with his thoughts, Michael couldn't help questioning how quickly everything had happened. Had there been something he hadn't noticed, some sign he had ignored in his hurry to find happiness again? Michael shook his head, trying to push away those doubts. Rachel had been nothing but loving and attentive since they married. She was a dedicated wife and a caring stepmother. The idea that she could be plotting something seemed absurd. And yet, his daughter's words echoed in his mind. The fear in their eyes was real, he was sure of that. What if there was some truth in what they heard? Making a decision, Michael stood and walked to the window, gazing at the dark garden outside. He couldn't simply dismiss his daughter's concerns. They deserved for him to investigate, even if just to prove there was nothing to worry about. With a determined sigh, Michael began outlining a plan. He needed to see for himself what Rachel did at night, when she thought everyone else was asleep. The thought of spying on his own wife made him uncomfortable, but he knew it was necessary, both to reassure his daughters and to quell his own growing doubts. In the days that followed, Michael watched Rachel carefully, looking for any sign of suspicious behavior. To his simultaneous frustration and relief, she seemed the same as ever, affectionate with the girls, attentive to him, efficient in her work both at home and at the office. The twins, on the other hand, remained tense and wary around Rachel, though they tried to hide it. Michael reassured them constantly, reminding them that he was keeping an eye on the situation. Finally, after nearly a week of discreet observation, Michael decided it was time to take more direct action. He carefully planned his night watch, choosing an evening he knew Rachel would stay up late working on an important project. That night, after tucking the twins in with a goodnight kiss and a silent promise of protection, Michael prepared for his secret vigil. He told Rachel he had work to do in his office and would probably go to bed late. "Don't worry about waiting up for me, sweetheart," he said, kissing her gently. "I know you have that big project to finish." Rachel smiled appreciatively. "Thank you for understanding, honey. Don't stay up too late, okay?" Michael nodded, feeling a pang of guilt for his deception, but the anxious look he'd seen in his daughter's eyes earlier that day strengthened his resolve. He spent the next few hours in his office, pretending to work while actually making final preparations for his nighttime mission. He checked the batteries on his small flashlight, ensured his phone was fully charged, and even considered installing an audio recording app in case he captured any suspicious conversation. As he got ready, Michael couldn't help feeling a mixture of anxiety and determination. He sincerely hoped he would find nothing suspicious, that this was all just a misunderstanding. But if something was wrong, he was determined to uncover it and protect his family at all costs. With his preparations complete, Michael sat in his chair, glancing at the clock. Now all he could do was wait and brace himself for whatever the night might reveal. The clock on the wall of Michael's office read 11:30 p.m. when he finally decided it was time to put his plan into action. Moving silently, he left the room and headed to the twins' bedroom, his heart pounding hard in his chest. The house was wrapped in an almost tangible silence, broken only by the soft hum of the air conditioning and the occasional creak of settling wood. Michael paused for a moment outside Emily and Olivia's door, taking a deep breath to steady his nerves. Carefully, he turned the doorknob and entered the room. The star-shaped nightlight cast a gentle glow over the two beds, where his daughter's small forms appeared to be peacefully asleep. But Michael knew they were only pretending. He approached the beds, leaning down to whisper, "Emily, Olivia, it's me, Daddy. Don't be scared." The twins opened their eyes simultaneously, looking at their father with a mix of relief and apprehension. "Daddy," Emily whispered back, "are you staying here?" Michael nodded, pressing a finger to his lips to signal silence. "I'm going to hide under your bed, Emily. I need to see what Mommy Rachel does at night. You two keep pretending to be asleep, no matter what happens, okay?" The girls nodded, their eyes wide with a blend of fear and excitement. Michael gave each a quick kiss on the forehead before moving to Emily's bed. With some difficulty, he contorted himself to fit in the tight space beneath it, silently thanking his exercise routine. Once in position, Michael gave a thumbs-up signal to the twins, who closed their eyes and settled into their beds, feigning sleep. Silence fell over the room again, heavy and full of anticipation. Minutes dragged by like hours. Michael could hear his daughter's soft breathing, occasionally broken by a restless movement or a nervous sigh. He himself struggled to keep his breathing calm and quiet, aware that the slightest sound could give him away. Then, shortly after midnight, the almost imperceptible sound of footsteps in the hallway put Michael on high alert. His entire body tensed as the bedroom door opened slowly, and he saw Rachel's feet step into the room. Rachel moved quietly through the room, stopping first by Olivia's bed. Michael couldn't see what she was doing, but he could hear her gentle breathing and the faint rustle of fabric. "Poor, sweet, foolish Olivia," Rachel whispered, her voice so low that Michael could barely hear it. "So trusting, so easy to fool. You have no idea what's coming, do you?" Michael felt his blood run cold. The cruelty in Rachel's words was shocking, completely unlike the loving woman he thought he knew. Rachel moved to Emily's bed, and Michael had to restrain himself from reacting when her feet stopped just inches from his face. "And you, Emily," Rachel continued in a cutting whisper, "always so observant. You suspect something, don't you? But it doesn't matter. Soon none of this will matter." Michael could feel his heart hammering in his chest so fiercely that he feared Rachel might hear it. What did she mean by, "soon none of this will matter"? What terrible plan was she plotting? After what felt like an eternity, Rachel finally left the room. Michael waited a few seconds before crawling out of his hiding spot, looking at his daughters with a mixture of horror and fierce protectiveness. Emily and Olivia opened their eyes, silent tears rolling down their cheeks. It was clear they had heard every cruel word from Rachel. "Shh, it's okay," Michael whispered, hugging them both. "Daddy's here. Nothing bad will happen to you." Before he could say more, the sound of Rachel's voice in the hallway caught his attention. She seemed to be on the phone again, her tone slightly louder than before, but still conspiratorial. "Yes, Dad, everything is going according to plan," they heard Rachel say. "Michael suspects nothing. The offshore accounts are ready to receive the transfers." Michael felt a knot form in his stomach. Offshore accounts? Transfers? What was she talking about? "We need to speed up the plan," Rachel continued. "We can't risk those little brats discovering anything. I've already noticed they're suspicious." Michael held his daughters more tightly, feeling them tremble in his arms. "Yes, I understand." Rachel answered a question they couldn't hear. "Revenge will be complete. Michael will lose everything, just like you lost everything because of his father. The company, the fortune, even his precious little girls, all of it will be ours." Michael could hardly believe what he was hearing. His mind spun, trying to process the magnitude of Rachel's betrayal. She wasn't just planning to steal his fortune, she was threatening his daughters too. And apparently it was all part of some vendetta related to his father. Rachel's conversation continued for a few more minutes, discussing details of bank transfers and financial manipulations Michael could scarcely comprehend in his state of shock. When they finally heard her footsteps retreating down the hallway, probably returning to her office, Michael allowed himself to release the breath he hadn't realized he was holding. He looked at Emily and Olivia, their faces pale with fear in the faint glow of the nightlight. "It's all right, my princesses," he whispered, trying to keep his voice steady despite the maelstrom of emotions inside him. "Daddy won't let anything bad happen to you." "Daddy?" Emily whispered tearfully. "Is Mommy Rachel evil?" Michael closed his eyes for a moment, his heart breaking at the loss of innocence in his daughters' faces. She made very bad choices, sweetheart. But you don't need to worry about that. I'll take care of everything." "I'm scared," Olivia confessed, clinging to her father. "I know, my love," Michael replied, stroking her hair, "but I promise I'll protect you. Tomorrow morning, we're going to Grandma's house, okay? You two will stay there for a few days while I handle this situation." The girls nodded, still trembling slightly. Michael held them close, his mind already formulating a plan. He needed to act fast, contact his lawyer, investigate these supposed bank transfers, and above all, keep his daughters safe. "Now, you need to try to get some sleep," he said softly. "I'll stay here in the room, keeping watch while you rest. Nothing bad will happen, I promise." Emily and Olivia lay down again, still holding hands. Michael pulled the covers over them, kissing each on the forehead. Then he sat down in the armchair in the corner of the room, his eyes fixed on the door, ready to protect his daughters from any threat. The night dragged on slowly, every minute feeling like an eternity. Michael remained vigilant, his mind replaying everything he had discovered, planning his next steps. When the first rays of sunlight began to filter through the curtains, he already knew exactly what he needed to do. The family he loved so much was under threat, and Michael was determined to do whatever it took to protect them. The coming day would bring many changes and challenges, but he was ready to face them. For his daughters, for his family, he would fight with all his might. As the morning light began to brighten the room, Michael watched his daughters sleeping, finally at peace after the tumultuous night. He knew the next few days would be critical, and that he needed to act quickly to safeguard his family and assets. Carefully, so as not to wake the girls, Michael picked up his phone and sent a message to his mother, asking her to come pick up Emily and Olivia as early as possible. Next, he called his lawyer, scheduling an emergency meeting for that morning. While waiting for the twins to wake, Michael began making a mental list of all the actions he needed to take. Freeze bank accounts, review recent financial documents, increase security at home and at the office. Rachel's betrayal was deep, and he knew the battle ahead would be tough. When Emily and Olivia finally opened their eyes, Michael was there with a reassuring smile, ready to face whatever the future might hold. He embraced them tightly, once more promising he would protect them no matter what. "Remember, my princesses," he said gently, "Daddy loves you more than anything in the world. We'll get through this together." The girls nodded, their eyes still filled with worry but trusting in their father's promise. Michael helped them dress and pack their bags for Grandma's house, explaining it would be like a mini vacation while he dealt with some work problems. When they heard Rachel moving in the hallway, Michael tensed but stayed calm for the girls' sake. He led them to the kitchen, where he prepared a quick breakfast, determined to get them out of the house before Rachel could interact with them too much. As soon as the twins' grandmother arrived, Michael placed the girls in the car, giving them goodbye kisses and assuring them he would see them soon. He watched the car drive away, feeling both relief that they were safe and determination to resolve the situation as quickly as possible. Returning inside, Michael prepared for the confrontation he knew was inevitable. Rachel was in the kitchen, apparently unaware of the storm about to break. "Good morning, sweetheart," she smiled, offering him a cup of coffee. "Where are the girls?" Michael looked at her, seeing her for the first time not as the loving wife he thought he had, but as the threat she truly was. "They went to spend a few days with my mother," he answered coldly. "Rachel, we need to talk." Rachel's smile faltered for a moment, but she quickly regained her composure. "Of course, honey. About what?" Michael took a deep breath, bracing himself for what was to come. The battle was only just beginning, but he was determined to protect everything he loved, no matter the cost. "About everything," he said firmly. "About you, your father, and the plan you have to destroy my family and my company." The shock on Rachel's face was momentary, quickly replaced by a cold, calculating expression Michael had never seen before. In that moment, he knew the woman he had loved had never really existed. The game had begun, and he was determined to win. In the days following the shocking revelation about Rachel, Michael immersed himself in methodical, discreet investigation. Determined to uncover the truth about the woman he had married, he began digging into Rachel's past with caution, aware that any misstep could alert her to his suspicions. His first move was to hire a trusted private investigator, someone who could look into Rachel's background without raising suspicion. Michael provided the investigator with every detail he knew of Rachel's story, including the supposed bankruptcy of her father, which now seemed to be the central point of the entire plot. While waiting for the initial findings, Michael devoted himself to combing through every company document Rachel had access to. He spent extra hours at the office, claiming important projects, while in reality combing through records and reports in search of irregularities that might be linked to his wife's suspicious activities. As the days passed, Michael began to notice subtle changes in Rachel's behavior. She seemed more alert to his movements, casting questioning glances when he arrived home late or locked himself in his office for long periods. The tension between them, while not explicit, was palpable. "Is everything all right, sweetheart?" Rachel asked one evening, her tone sweet but tinged with suspicion. "You seem so distant lately." Michael forced a smile, hating the need for subterfuge. "Just work stress, love. We've got a big project underway." Rachel nodded, not looking entirely convinced. "Well, don't push yourself too hard." "I miss you." Michael's heart ached as he recalled how he had fallen for this woman, who was now proven an imposter. "I know, I'm sorry. I promise it'll get better soon." The twins, Emily and Olivia, were not oblivious to the growing tension between the adults. Their watchful, worried eyes observed Michael and Rachel's interactions, noting the hushed conversations that ended abruptly when they entered a room, the tense looks exchanged between them. One afternoon, while playing in the yard, Emily whispered to Olivia, "Do you think Daddy found out something about Mommy Rachel?" Olivia shrugged, her usually cheerful face lined with worry. "I don't know, but they've been acting so weird. I'm scared I am." Emily hugged her sister. "Me too, Liv, but Daddy promised he'd protect us, remember?" The girls went on playing, but the weight of the situation was evident in their small shoulders. Meanwhile, the first reports came in from the private investigator, revealing disturbing facts. Rachel's story about her father's bankruptcy was riddled with inconsistencies. Records showed that her father's company hadn't gone bankrupt the way she claimed, but rather undergone a suspicious restructuring, with large sums of money moving to offshore accounts. These revelations only increased Michael's resolve to discover the full truth. He decided more surveillance was needed inside his own home. Under the guise of improving family security, he hired a company to install a new camera system. What Rachel didn't know was that, in addition to the visible cameras, Michael had hidden devices placed in strategic spots around the house, including the office she often used. Installing the hidden cameras was a tense process. Michael had to carefully orchestrate times when Rachel would be out of the house, coordinating with the security team to install the devices quickly and without leaving any trace. Every minute was precious, and Michael's heart raced at every unexpected noise, fearing Rachel might return at any moment and discover his plan. One night, while Rachel slept, Michael snuck into her office. Heart pounding, hands trembling, he began rifling through drawers and files. That was when he found a folder hidden at the back of a locked drawer. Inside, financial documents that made little sense at first glance, but which Michael, with his business-trained eye, recognized as evidence of sophisticated financial manipulation. He took photos of each page with his phone, barely able to contain his anger and disappointment. Each document was yet another proof of Rachel's betrayal. Complex charts, mismatched numbers, and what seemed to be a code for illegal transactions, all hidden under his nose for months. In the days that followed, Michael noticed a change in Rachel's behavior toward the twins. She seemed more attentive, almost excessively affectionate. At first, he thought it might be guilt, but he soon realized there was something more sinister at play. Rachel began asking seemingly innocent questions of the girls about Michael's work, his schedule, his meetings. The twins, still confused and frightened by what they had heard that fateful night, became more withdrawn. They gave short answers, avoiding eye contact with Rachel. One afternoon, Michael accidentally overheard a conversation between Rachel and Olivia. "Sweetheart, do you know if Daddy has been working on anything special lately?" "He seems so busy," Rachel asked, her voice dripping with sweetness. Olivia hesitated, casting a quick glance at the door where Michael was hiding. "I don't know," she mumbled. "Daddy doesn't talk much about work." Rachel sighed, a note of frustration in her voice. "I see. Well, if you hear anything, let me know, okay? It's important that Mommy Rachel knows so she can help Daddy." Michael's blood boiled. Rachel was using his own daughters to spy on him. He had to act quickly. The secret cameras began to reveal a disturbing pattern. Michael watched in horror as Rachel subtly manipulated the twins, pressing them for information while threatening them in veiled ways. The girls, visibly uncomfortable, grew quieter and more withdrawn. "Remember, darlings," Rachel said in one recording, her voice sweet but carrying a hint of threat, "it's very important we keep our little secrets. Daddy would be very upset if he knew you were talking about things you shouldn't." The twins only nodded, their eyes wide with fear. This manipulation of the children was the final straw for Michael. He knew he had to protect his daughters at all costs, but he also needed enough evidence to expose Rachel completely. That night, after tucking the girls into bed, Michael spent hours in his office, meticulously examining his company's financial records. That was when he discovered a series of suspicious bank transfers. Small amounts, carefully disguised, were being siphoned into an unknown account. Added together, these transfers represented a significant sum. Michael traced each transfer, his heart sinking with each new discovery. The money was moving through a complex series of accounts, making it nearly impossible to track its final destination. It was an elaborate scheme, clearly planned by someone with deep knowledge of finance and money laundering. Shocked and enraged, Michael was about to confront Rachel when he heard her voice from the hallway. She was on the phone, speaking quietly. Silently, he approached his office door, listening closely. "Yes, Dad." "Everything is going according to plan," Rachel whispered. "Michael seems a bit suspicious, but he has no idea what's really happening. The transfers are almost complete." There was a pause while she listened. "No, those brats don't know anything useful. But don't worry, it's almost time. Soon, we'll have everything we deserve." Michael felt a chill run through him. Rachel's plan was nearing its final stage, and he needed to act quickly to protect his family and his company. With the evidence he had collected, financial documents, hidden camera recordings, records of suspicious bank transfers, Michael knew he had enough to expose Rachel. But he also knew he had to be careful. Rachel and her father seemed to have resources and connections he still didn't fully understand. As Rachel ended her call and headed back to her office, Michael remained in his own, his mind working feverishly. He had a plan beginning to form, a plan to turn the tables on Rachel and her scheming father. The puzzle pieces were falling into place. The fabricated story of Rachel's father's bankruptcy, the suspicious bank transfers, the manipulation of the children, it was all part of a bigger plan, a carefully orchestrated vendetta. Michael recalled a conversation he had with Rachel early in their relationship, when she briefly mentioned that her father had lost everything due to a bad business deal. At the time, he hadn't thought much of it, but now it all made a terrible sense. With renewed determination, Michael began making discreet calls of his own. It was time to gather allies, prepare his legal defense, and above all, ensure Emily and Olivia's safety. He knew the next few days would be crucial. Rachel was clearly preparing to deliver her final blow, and Michael had to stay one step ahead. Every move, every decision from that moment on could mean the difference between saving everything he loved or losing it all to Rachel's web of lies. The night wore on, and Michael remained in his office, planning his next steps. He had to act with caution, yet with urgency. Time was running out. As the sun began to rise, casting the first rays of light through the office window, Michael finally leaned back in his chair, exhausted but resolute. He had a plan. It wouldn't be easy, and the risks were enormous, but it was his best chance to protect his family and unmask Rachel. With a deep sigh, Michael got up and walked to the window, looking out at the garden where his daughters once played without a care in the world. He would do anything to restore that innocence, to bring back the peace and happiness Rachel had stolen from them. The final battle was approaching, and Michael was ready to fight with all his might. For his family, for their future, he would face the coming storm, determined to emerge victorious on the other side. With that comforting certainty in mind, Michael left his office and headed to the kitchen to start breakfast. He knew he had to keep up appearances a little while longer, acting normal as he finalized his plans. As he made pancakes, his daughter's favorite, Michael heard Rachel's soft footsteps on the stairs. He forced a smile, determined not to reveal his suspicions. "Good morning, sweetheart," Rachel said, entering the kitchen with her usual smile. "You're up early today," Michael nodded, flipping a pancake. "Yes, I have an important meeting this morning. I thought I'd make a special breakfast for the girls before I leave." Rachel came closer, kissing him on the cheek. "You're a wonderful father, Michael." He felt a knot in his stomach at those words, knowing the falsehood behind them. But he maintained his composure, determined not to tip his hand. Soon Emily and Olivia walked into the kitchen, still in their pajamas, their hair messy. Their faces lit up at the sight of the pancakes, but Michael noticed their hesitation when they saw Rachel. "Good morning, my princesses," he said, serving them pancakes. "Did you sleep well?" The girls nodded silently, sitting at the table. Michael exchanged a quick glance with them, trying to convey safety and love with his eyes. As the family had breakfast, Michael watched carefully. Rachel acted normally, asking about the girls' plans for the day, commenting on the weather. But now that his eyes were open, Michael saw the subtle manipulations, the seemingly innocent questions seeking information. After breakfast, Michael got ready to leave, giving each daughter a tight hug. "Have a great day, my little ones," he said, his voice laden with emotion. "Daddy loves you so much." On his way out, Michael cast one final glance at Rachel, who stood at the door waving. Their eyes locked for a moment, and he wondered if she could sense the storm brewing. With a determined sigh, Michael got into his car. The day ahead wouldn't be just another day at the office. It would be the beginning of the end of this farce, the first step in his mission to unmask Rachel and protect everything he loved. Driving to the office, Michael mentally reviewed his plan. He knew the next few days would be critical. The battle for truth, justice, and his family's future was about to begin, and he was more than ready to fight it. Michael arrived at the office early, determined to seize every minute before the workday officially started. With trembling hands fueled by anxiety and adrenaline, he turned on his computer and accessed the online banking system. Taking a deep breath to calm himself, Michael navigated to the statements of the joint accounts he held with Rachel. His eyes scanned the lines of transactions, looking for anything out of the ordinary. At first, everything appeared normal. Household bills, routine purchases, Nothing immediately suspicious. But then he saw it. A series of transfers, each to different accounts, in amounts that seemed random at first glance. Michael frowned, focusing on the details. The amounts varied, but added together over time, they represented a significant sum. Heart-pounding, Michael opened his personal calendar, comparing the transfer dates with his records. A troubling pattern emerged. The transfers coincided perfectly with the nights he had heard Rachel making suspicious phone calls. "My God," Michael muttered, running a hand through his hair in frustration and disbelief. Determined to learn more, Michael began a meticulous process of tracing those transfers. Each account led to another, and another, forming a complex financial maze. He found himself in a tangle of offshore accounts, shell companies, and international transactions that seemed designed to confuse and mislead. Hours passed without Michael noticing, fully absorbed in his investigation. He barely registered his colleagues arriving, greeting him distractedly as they passed by his door. Meanwhile, at home, Rachel took advantage of Michael's absence to step up her manipulation of the twins. She called them into the living room, her face a mask of maternal concern. "Emily, Olivia, come here, dears," Rachel called sweetly, but with an undertone of urgency. "We need to talk about something important." The girls approached hesitantly, exchanging nervous glances. They sat on the couch, with Rachel between them, her arms around their small shoulders. "You know Mommy Rachel loves you and Daddy very much, right?" she began in a low, conspiratorial voice. "And sometimes, to protect the people we love, we have to keep certain secrets." Emily frowned, remembering her father's words about honesty. "But Daddy said we shouldn't keep secrets from him," she said timidly. Rachel squeezed Emily's shoulder lightly, her smile faltering momentarily. "Oh, sweetheart, your daddy says that because he doesn't understand how special this thing we're doing is. We're planning a big surprise for him, remember? But if we tell, it'll ruin everything." Olivia, always more attuned to others' emotions, noticed the tension in Rachel's voice. "What kind of surprise?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "A wonderful surprise," Rachel replied, her tone now laced with a veiled threat. "But it'll only work if you're good girls and keep our secret. You don't want to disappoint Daddy, do you? It would be terrible if something went wrong because of a slip-up." The twins paled, clutching each other for comfort. They didn't fully grasp what was happening, but they could sense something was very wrong. Back at the office, Michael finally paused his investigation, rubbing his tired eyes. He had managed to trace some transfers to accounts in the Cayman Islands and Switzerland, but the trail grew increasingly complex from there. Glancing at the clock, Michael realized it was already past noon. He couldn't arouse suspicion by staying in the office all day. With a heavy sigh, he decided to go home for lunch, hoping to check Rachel's office one more time. Arriving home, Michael was greeted by an unusual quiet. He found Rachel in the kitchen, preparing lunch with studied calm. "Hello, sweetheart," she said, smiling. "I didn't expect you home for lunch today." Michael forced a smile. "I thought I'd surprise you. Where are the girls?" "Oh, they're playing in their room," Rachel replied casually. "They were a bit quiet today, so I suggested they rest for a while." Michael nodded, feeling a twinge of concern. "I'll go check on them before lunch," he said, heading upstairs. He found Emily and Olivia in their bedroom, sitting quietly on their beds, their little faces marked by a seriousness that broke Michael's heart. "Hey, princesses," he said softly, entering the room. "Is everything all right?" The girls looked at him, tears welling in their eyes. In an instant, they ran into his arms, silently sobbing. "Daddy," Emily whispered between sobs, "we're scared." Michael held his daughters close, his heart breaking at their anguish. "Shh, it's all right," he murmured, stroking their hair. "Daddy's here. Nothing bad will happen to you, I promise." After calming the girls and ensuring they were okay, Michael went downstairs for lunch, his resolve renewed. He had to act quickly to protect his daughters from Rachel's manipulative game. After lunch, Michael managed a few minutes alone in Rachel's office, claiming he needed some documents for a meeting. Heart pounding, he quickly searched drawers, looking for anything that might shed more light on Rachel's plans. That was when he found it. Hidden under a pile of seemingly harmless papers, a cryptic document. It was a sheet filled with codes and dates, some matching the bank transfers he had discovered, others set in the future. One date, just 3 days away, was circled in red. Michael hurriedly took a photo of the document with his phone, his heart thudding in his chest. He barely had time to replace everything before hearing Rachel's footsteps approach. "Did you find what you needed, sweetheart?" Rachel asked, appearing in the office doorway. Michael forced a smile, holding up a few folders he'd grabbed as a cover. "Yes, love. Thank you." As he left the office, he could feel Rachel's gaze burning into his back. The tension in the air was palpable, like the calm before a storm. The rest of the day blurred into anxious planning. Michael could barely focus on his work, his mind continually returning to the document he had found and the fear in his daughter's eyes. When he finally returned home that evening, the atmosphere was charged with almost palpable tension. Dinner was a silent, uncomfortable affair, with Rachel maintaining a facade of normality while the twins barely touched their food, sending nervous glances between their parents. After putting the girls to bed, Michael retreated to his office, claiming he had unfinished work. In truth, he spent hours studying all the information he had gathered, attempting to decipher the cryptic document and plan his next moves. It was close to midnight when Michael heard the soft sound of footsteps in the hallway. Silently, he moved to his office door, listening carefully. "Yes, Dad," he heard Rachel's whispered voice. "Everything's set for Friday. Michael suspects nothing. Soon, we'll have our revenge." Michael felt a shiver run down his spine. Friday, 3 days from now. The date circled on the document. Whatever Rachel and her father were planning was about to happen. Returning to his desk, Michael knew time was running out. He had to act quickly to dismantle the web of lies and betrayal Rachel had woven around him. With renewed determination, he began making discreet phone calls to his lawyer and a trusted private investigator. The final battle was drawing near, and Michael was determined to protect his family and expose the truth, whatever the cost. The Hartley residence, once a happy home, now felt on the verge of imploding under the weight of secrets and distrust. Michael knew the next few days would be crucial. It was time to confront Rachel and expose the truth before it was too late. The next morning, tension in the Hartley house was palpable. Michael, exhausted from a night of planning and worry, quietly prepared breakfast. Rachel, for her part, kept a forced smile as she helped the twins get ready for school. Emily and Olivia exchanged nervous glances all morning. Something in them had changed. A quiet resolve seemed to have formed overnight. When Rachel left briefly to answer a call, they seized the moment. "Daddy," Emily whispered, tugging on Michael's sleeve. "We need to talk to you. It's important." Michael knelt to be at eye level with his daughters, noting the fear and determination in their gazes. "What is it, sweethearts?" Olivia glanced quickly at the door, making sure Rachel wasn't coming back. "Not here," she murmured. "After school. It's about Mommy Rachel." Michael's heart raced, but he maintained his composure, nodding gravely. "All right, princesses. We'll talk after school, I promise." The day dragged on for everyone. Michael could hardly focus on work, his mind swirling with worry over what his daughters might reveal. The twins, meanwhile, spent the school day anxious, counting down the minutes until they could confide in their father. When the time finally came to pick the girls up from school, Michael felt on the brink of a nervous breakdown. He spotted them at the gate, their faces serious in stark contrast to the other children's joyful departure. "Let's go to the park," Michael decided, knowing they needed privacy for this conversation. At the park, away from prying ears, Michael sat with Emily and Olivia on a secluded bench. "Okay, my little ones," he said gently. "What did you want to tell me?" The twins looked at each other, mustering courage. Emily spoke first. "Daddy, Mommy Rachel, she's not as good as we thought." Olivia continued, her voice trembling. "She makes us keep secrets. She says it's for a surprise for you, but it doesn't feel right," Emily finished. "She keeps asking questions about you, about your work." Michael felt his stomach twist but kept his tone calm. "What kind of questions does she ask?" The girls then poured out everything. revealing the manipulations and veiled threats Rachel had been making for weeks. They spoke about how she pressured them to spy on him, how she subtly threatened them if they didn't cooperate, how she insisted everything was part of a big surprise. She said if we told you, something bad might happen, Olivia sobbed, that you'd be really sad and disappointed in us. Michael was horrified. He knew Rachel was manipulating the twins, but the extent of the emotional abuse was beyond what he had imagined. "Oh, my darlings," he said, hugging them tight. "You were so brave to tell me this. I'm so proud of you." Emily looked at him through tear-filled eyes. "You're not mad at us for keeping it a secret?" "Of course not," Michael assured her. "You didn't do anything wrong. Mommy Rachel was wrong to make you keep those kinds of secrets." He took a deep breath, knowing he had to be careful with his next words. "Listen, my princesses, what Mommy Rachel did was very, very wrong. She shouldn't have put you in this situation or made you feel scared." "What happens now, Daddy?" Olivia asked, her voice small and frightened. Michael hugged his daughters tighter. "Now, I'm going to take care of everything. I promise I'll fix this and keep you safe. Do you trust me?" The twins nodded, burying their faces in his chest. "Good," Michael continued. "For now, we need to act normally around Mommy Rachel. But if she asks you to keep more secrets or makes you feel uncomfortable, you come straight to me, okay?" "Okay, Daddy," they answered in unison. Michael kissed the top of their heads, his heart breaking for the innocence they had lost, yet filled with pride at their courage. Meanwhile, back home, Rachel was growing uneasy. The twins were late, and Michael wasn't answering her calls. A sense of unease settled in her stomach. When she finally heard Michael's car in the garage, Rachel rushed to the window. She saw the twins getting out, holding their father's hands. Something was different about them, a confidence that wasn't there in the morning. "Damn," Rachel muttered to herself, realizing she was losing control of the situation. The brats must have told Michael something. With trembling hands, she grabbed her cell phone and dialed a familiar number. "Dad," she said as soon as the call was answered, "we've got a problem. We need to speed up the plan now." As she hung up, Rachel heard the front door open. Plastering a smile on her face, she went to greet her family, knowing the final showdown was about to begin. The next morning, Michael woke before sunrise, his body tense with anticipation of what was to come. He knew every move from that point on would be critical. Quietly, he slipped out of bed, careful not to wake Rachel, who slept soundly beside him. In his office, Michael turned on his computer and initiated a secure video conference with his trusted lawyer, Dr. James Anderson, and the private investigator he had hired, Mr. Robert Miller. "Good morning, gentlemen," Michael greeted in a low voice. "Thank you for meeting with me so early." Dr. Anderson adjusted his glasses. "Michael, based on what you told us yesterday, the situation is serious. We need to act fast." "I agree," Mr. Miller said. "I managed to gather more information about Rachel's past and her father. None of it is pretty." For nearly 2 hours, the three men discussed strategies and analyzed evidence. Michael shared everything he had discovered: suspicious financial documents, hidden camera footage, bank records with mysterious transfers, and the cryptic document he found in Rachel's office. "This is more than enough for a search warrant," Dr. Anderson stated. "We can also file a preliminary injunction to freeze Rachel's assets and keep her away from the children." Michael felt a lump in his throat at the thought of his daughters. "About that, I need to get them out of here as soon as possible. I can't risk Rachel using them as leverage." "A wise decision," Mr. Miller agreed. "The fewer variables we have to worry about, the better." They spent the next hour outlining a detailed plan. Michael would send the twins to his mother's under the guise of a surprise visit to Grandma. Meanwhile, Dr. Anderson would prepare the necessary legal documents, and Mr. Miller would continue his investigation, focusing on Rachel's father's recent activities. When the meeting ended, the sun was already rising. Michael heard movement upstairs and knew Rachel was awake. He quickly closed all files on his computer and headed up to join the family for breakfast. "Good morning, sweetheart," Rachel smiled, pouring coffee. "You got up early today." Michael forced a smile. "Yes, I had a few urgent emails to answer." The twins entered the kitchen, still in their pajamas. Their eyes met Michael's, full of a silent understanding beyond their years. "Girls," Michael said, keeping his voice casual. "How about a surprise? I was thinking you could visit Grandma today. What do you say?" The twins' eyes lit up, grasping his underlying message. "That would be great, Daddy," Emily exclaimed. Rachel frowned. "But Michael, didn't we have plans today, that lunch with the Johnsons?" "Oh, that's right," Michael pretended to remember. "Well, the girls can go and we'll pick them up tomorrow. I'm sure my mum will be thrilled to have them for a night." Rachel looked like she wanted to argue, but something in Michael's tone made her hesitate. "Sure, if that's what you think is best." The rest of the morning passed in a blur of activity. Michael helped the twins pack, whispering words of comfort and instructions whenever Rachel wasn't around. By 11 o'clock, his mother arrived to pick up the girls. "Remember what we talked about," Michael whispered as he hugged his daughters. "Stay with Grandma and don't answer calls from anyone but me, okay?" The twins nodded solemnly. "We love you, Daddy," Olivia whispered. With a heavy heart, Michael watched the car drive away, taking his precious daughters to safety. Now he could focus entirely on confronting Rachel and exposing her plan. Returning to the house, Michael found Rachel in his office, apparently working on her laptop. But something in her posture, a tension that wasn't there before, set him on alert. "Did the girls leave already?" Rachel asked without looking away from the screen. "Yes," Michael replied, watching her intently. "My mother just took them." Rachel nodded absently. "Good. They deserve some time with Grandma." Michael noticed her fingers hesitating over the keyboard, as though she was unsure what to do next. Deciding he needed more time to finalize his own preparations, he announced, "I'm heading to the office for a few hours. That report for Monday's meeting still needs finishing." Rachel finally looked at him, her eyes searching his face. "Sure, darling, don't work too hard." Michael left, but he didn't go to his office. Instead, he went to his lawyer's office, where they spent the next few hours reviewing documents and finalizing legal strategies. Meanwhile, back at home, Rachel waited until she was sure Michael was gone before moving. With quick steps, she went to his office and turned on his computer. Her frustration grew when she was greeted by a password screen. "Damn it, Michael," she muttered, trying various combinations without success. After several fruitless minutes, she gave up. Knowing she didn't have much time before Michael returned, Rachel picked up her phone and dialed a familiar number. "Dad," she said, as soon as the call was answered, "I think Michael knows something. The girls were sent to Grandma's and he's acting strangely. We need to move now." On the other end of the line, her father's voice sounded calm but urgent. "Understood, dear. Activate Plan B. I'll be there in 2 hours." When Michael finally arrived home in the late afternoon, he could feel the shift in the atmosphere. Rachel greeted him with a smile that didn't reach her eyes, tension evident in her shoulders. "How was work, darling?" she asked, her voice oddly controlled. "Productive," Michael replied, watching her every move. "I managed to finish everything I needed." They stared at each other for a moment, both aware they were dancing around the truth, waiting to see who would make the first move. Michael decided it was time. He didn't know exactly what Rachel was planning, but he knew he couldn't wait any longer. With a calmness that belied the turmoil inside, he said, "Rachel, I think we need to talk." Rachel's smile faltered for a moment before she recovered. "Of course, love. About what?" Michael took a deep breath, preparing for what was coming. "About you, your father, and the plan you have to destroy my family and my company." The shock on Rachel's face lasted only a moment, replaced by a cold, calculating expression Michael had never seen. He realized in that moment that the woman he had loved had never truly existed. "Well, Michael," Rachel said, her voice now stripped of affection, "it looks like we've reached the final act of our little play. I must admit, you took longer to catch on than I expected." Michael felt a chill run down his spine. He had prepared for denial, maybe even tears and pleas. But this cold, confident Rachel before him was something he wasn't entirely ready for. "Why?" he managed, his voice rough with emotion. "Why do all this?" Rachel laughed, a humorless sound that echoed through the room. "Oh, Michael, you really have no idea, do you? Well, don't worry. All your questions will be answered soon." My father is on his ways, and then we can have a nice little family reunion. Michael felt his heart race. Rachel's father was coming. That wasn't in his plan. He needed to buy time, maintain control until his lawyer and the police could arrive. "There's no need to involve anyone else, Rachel," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. "We can settle this ourselves." Rachel studied him for a moment, her eyes cold and calculating. "You really think you have any control over this situation, don't you? How endearing. But I'm afraid things have gone too far to turn back now, darling." She moved toward the window, looking outside as though waiting for something. "You know, Michael, you should have been satisfied with the life we built. Everything could have been so simple. But you had to be the hero, right? Always trying to save the day." Michael took a step toward her, his mind racing to find a way to buy more time. "Rachel, whatever you and your father are planning, we can still stop this. Think about the girl." Michael's words were cut short by the sound of a car parking in front of the house. Rachel smiled, a cold smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Ah, it looks like our guest of honor has arrived," she said, turning to Michael. "Now, darling, get ready. The real story is about to begin." Michael felt his stomach drop. He wasn't prepared for this. His carefully laid plans were unraveling before his eyes. As he heard footsteps approaching the front door, he knew the true test was only beginning. Taking one last deep breath, Michael readied himself to face not only Rachel, but also the man behind this entire scheme. The final confrontation was about to begin, and he was determined to protect his family and company at any cost. The sound of the doorbell rang through the house, breaking the tense silence between Michael and Rachel. With a chilling smile, Rachel moved toward the door, but Michael intercepted her. "Not so fast," he said, his voice firm. "Before we let anyone in, you're going to explain exactly what's happening here." Rachel raised an eyebrow, her face a mask of studied calm. "Oh, Michael, do you really think you're in control here?" "Very well, we'll play your way out for now." Michael took a deep breath, mustering courage. It was time to lay all his cards on the table. "I know about the bank transfers, Rachel. I know about the late-night calls, how you've been manipulating our daughters. I have proof of everything." He pulled out his phone, showing Rachel photos of the documents he found in her office. "This is just the tip of the iceberg. I have recordings, bank statements, everything. Your revenge plan ends here." For a moment, Rachel looked genuinely surprised. Then, to Michael's shock, she started laughing, a laugh free of nervousness or defensiveness, filled instead with pure amusement. "Oh, darling," she said, wiping away a tear of laughter. "You really think you figured it all out, don't you? How touching." Michael's confidence wavered. "What are you talking about? I know all about your plan to ruin my company, to get revenge for what supposedly happened to your father." Rachel sighed, as though explaining something to a child. Michael, what you uncovered is just the surface. The revenge plan. It's real, of course, but it's only a small part of something much bigger." She walked to the window, staring out as though lost in thought. "You want the truth? All of this, our marriage, manipulating the twins, suspicious transfers, is part of a far more elaborate scheme than you can imagine." Michael felt his stomach drop. "What scheme?" Rachel was about to answer when her phone rang. She looked at the screen and smiled. "Ah, right on time. I think it's time you heard the whole story, darling." She answered the call, putting it on speaker. "Hello, Dad. You're on speaker. Michael is here with me." The voice that came through the phone made Michael freeze. It was a voice he knew well, a voice that did not belong to Rachel's father, but rather to... "Charles?" Michael exclaimed, incredulous. "Charles Thompson?" Charles Thompson was the longtime CFO of Michael's company, a man he considered not just a colleague, but a close friend. "Hello, Michael," Charles's voice sounded, a mix of amusement and triumph. "Surprised to hear me?" Michael staggered, feeling as though the floor had been ripped from beneath him. I don't understand. What's going on here?" Rachel smiled, a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Let me explain, darling. Charles isn't just my adoptive father. He's the mastermind behind all of this." But you told me your father went bankrupt," Michael stammered. "You told me about how he lost everything." "Oh, that story?" Rachel laughed. "A convenient fabrication. The bankruptcy was an elaborate sham, Michael. A way to escape massive debts and investigations closing in. Charles chimed in through the phone. You see, Michael, when I realized the walls were closing in, I needed an out. Faking my financial ruin and dying soon after was the perfect solution. It allowed me to start over, plan my return, and my revenge. Michael felt his head spin from the revelations. Revenge? Against who? Me. But why? Not against you specifically, Michael, Rachel explained. Against your father. Years ago, Charles's father and yours were business partners, but your father betrayed his, stealing the company right from under him. Charles swore he'd make the Hartley family pay one day. But my father died years ago, Michael protested. Why wait so long? Charles laughed bitterly over the phone. Revenge is a dish best served cold, Michael. I needed time to set everything up, to fully infiltrate your life and business. Rachel was essential to that. Michael looked at Rachel, the woman he thought he loved, now a stranger before him. So, everything was a lie. Our marriage, your love for the girls. Rachel hesitated for a moment, something flickering in her eyes that Michael couldn't decipher. The plan was the priority, Michael, but emotions, they can be complicated. Charles interrupted. Focus, Rachel. Michael, the revenge plan you discovered was just the tip of the iceberg, as Rachel said. In truth, it was a distraction to hide something much bigger. Michael frowned, his mind struggling to connect the dots. What? What could be bigger than destroying my company and my family? Rachel smiled, a cold and calculating smile. An international fraud on a grand scale, darling. Your company, without your knowledge, has been at the center of a massive money laundering operation over the past few years. The shock hit Michael like a punch to the gut. No, that's impossible. I would have noticed. You would have, if you'd been looking, Charles broke in. But you trusted your executives and your systems too much. It was ridiculously easy to manipulate accounts, create shell companies, siphon off funds. And the best part, when it all comes to light, you, Michael, will take the fall. Michael stumbled to a chair, feeling nauseous. My God, you used my own company to create one of the biggest financial frauds in recent history, Rachel finished. Billions of dollars, Michael. All right under your nose. His mind spun. He thought of his daughters, his employees, everyone who would be affected. How could you? All those innocent people. Rachel shrugged. Collateral damage, unfortunately, but business is business. Charles spoke again. The plan is in its final stages now, Michael. In a matter of days, it will all blow up. Your company will crumble. You'll be the perfect scapegoat, and we'll vanish with the money. Michael stood abruptly. Not if I can help it. I have proof. I can go to the police right now. Rachel laughed. With what proof, darling? Those documents you found, planted, the recordings, easily explained away. You have nothing solid against us, but we have a mountain of fabricated evidence against you. Michael felt the weight of reality crashing down on him. He was cornered, trapped in a web of lies and betrayal so elaborate he could scarcely understand its scope. And the girls? He asked, voice breaking. They're innocent in all this. For a moment, something like remorse crossed Rachel's face. The twins. They weren't part of the original plan, but they became useful. Manipulating them gave us access to the information we needed. Fury roared to life in Michael's chest. You used my daughters, innocent children. Business is business, Michael. Charles's cold voice sounded through the phone. There's no place for sentimentality here. Michael felt torn between the overwhelming desire to protect his family and the urgent need to face the looming legal consequences. He knew every second mattered now. What happens now? He asked, his voice laced with defeat. Rachel smirked. That cold smile Michael now realized never reached her eyes. Now, darling, you have a choice to make. You can try to fight this, go to the police, try to prove your innocence, or you can cooperate. Help us finalize a few transfers, be the perfect scapegoat, and maybe, just maybe, we'll be generous with what we leave for your precious daughters. Michael felt the weight of the world on his shoulders. Every option seemed worse than the last. To fight might mean losing everything and everyone he loved. To cooperate meant betraying everything he believed in. As the silence stretched out, broken only by the ticking of the clock, Michael knew he was facing the hardest decision of his life. The future of his family, his company, and his own freedom hung by a thread, and time was running out. The local FBI office was bustling that morning when Michael arrived, accompanied by his attorney. His decision to cooperate with the authorities had not been easy, but he knew it was the only way to protect what truly mattered, his daughters and his integrity. "Mr. Hartley," Special Agent Sarah Collins greeted him, "we're ready to take your statement." In the hours that followed, Michael revealed everything he knew about the fraudulent scheme orchestrated by Rachel and Charles. He provided documents, recordings, and details that would help dismantle the complex network of fraud. "I understand this isn't easy for you," Agent Collins said, "but your cooperation is key to bringing the real culprits to justice." Michael nodded, exhausted. "I just want to protect my daughters and save what I can of the company. There are so many innocent people depending on those jobs." In the weeks that followed, Michael worked tirelessly with the authorities and his legal team. His priorities were clear: to keep Emily and Olivia away from the scandal and preserve as much of the company as possible for the innocent employees. Rachel and Charles's arrest was a bittersweet moment. Watching the woman he once loved being taken away in handcuffs unleashed a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. But seeing Charles's stunned expression when he realized his plan had collapsed brought Michael a small measure of satisfaction. The legal and media repercussions were intense. Michael faced long hours of depositions, meetings with furious investors, and relentless media coverage. But amid the chaos, his focus remained on his daughters. Emily and Olivia returned home after weeks at their grandmother's. Michael received them with tight hugs and tears in his eyes. "Daddy," Emily said, her voice small but steady, "Mommy Rachel isn't coming back, is she?" Michael knelt, looking into his daughter's eyes. "No, sweetheart. Mommy Rachel did some very bad things, and now she's dealing with the consequences." To his surprise, the twins showed remarkable resilience. Olivia nodded solemnly. "We knew something was wrong. We're just glad to be home with you, Daddy." In the months that followed, life slowly found a new rhythm. Michael's company, though significantly downsized, survived the scandal. Many jobs were saved, thanks to Michael's tireless efforts. One sunny fall afternoon, Michael was sitting in the garden, watching Emily and Olivia play. His attorney, Dr. Anderson, joined him. "Things are finally settling down," Dr. Anderson commented. "You've done an amazing job, Michael. Many would have given up." Michael offered a small smile. "I had no choice. My daughters deserve a better future, and all those innocent employees do too." Dr. Anderson nodded. "What about your future plans? I've heard rumors about a new company." "Yes," Michael confirmed, "an ethics consultancy. I want to use my experience to help other businesses avoid situations like the one we faced. Transparency and integrity will be our core principles." As they talked, Emily and Olivia ran over, bright smiles on their faces. "Daddy, Daddy," Olivia called. "Can we have a birthday party next month? We're turning 6. Michael felt his heart fill with love and gratitude. "Absolutely, my loves. We'll throw the best birthday party ever." On the twins' birthday, the Hartley house was filled with laughter and joy. Friends, family, and even some loyal former employees came to celebrate. Watching his daughters blow out their candles, Michael reflected on the turbulent journey of the past months. They had faced betrayal, loss, and uncertainty, yet here they were, stronger and closer than ever. Later that night, with the twins finally asleep after a day of festivities, Michael sat on the porch, contemplating the future. The road ahead was still challenging. His reputation, though recovering, would take time to fully restore. The new company was just beginning, and there was much work to be done. But looking at the photo he held, him and the twins smiling on their birthday, Michael felt a wave of hope and determination. They had learned valuable lessons about trust, honesty, and the importance of true familial love. "Daddy?" Emily's sleepy voice surprised him. She stood in the doorway, rubbing her eyes. "Hey, princess," Michael smiled, opening his arms. Emily curled up on his lap. "Can't sleep," she shook her head. "I was thinking, I'm glad it's just the three of us now. You, me, and Liv." Michael kissed the top of her head, feeling a lump in his throat. "Me too, my love. The three of us against the world, right?" Emily nodded, already nearly asleep again. Against the world. Carrying his daughter back to bed, Michael felt a deep certainty settle in his heart. The future might be uncertain, but with his daughter's love and the values he now clung to more firmly than ever, he knew they could face any challenge. The night was clear, the stars shining brightly in the sky. Michael paused for a moment at the window, gazing up at the vast expanse above. A new chapter was beginning for the Hartley family, a chapter of honesty, courage, and unconditional love. For the first time in a long while, Michael smiled wholeheartedly, ready to face whatever the future held with his precious daughters by his side. With that comforting certainty, Michael gently closed the twins' bedroom door and returned to the porch. The night was serene, a stark contrast to the turmoil of recent months. He allowed himself a moment of reflection, mentally revisiting the events that had transformed his life. Rachel's betrayal, the shocking revelation about Charles, the imminent collapse of his company, all of it now seemed like a distant nightmare. Yet the scars remained, constant reminders of the hard lessons learned. Michael picked up his phone, looking at his home screen where a recent photo of the twins beamed back at him. Their radiant faces, filled with innocence and hope, were the reason he had fought so hard. For them, he would continue to fight, building a brighter, safer future. His new ethics consulting firm was only in its infancy, but it had already attracted considerable interest. Many saw the value in someone who had faced and overcome such a significant ethical crisis. Michael was determined to turn his ordeal into something positive, helping other companies avoid the same pitfalls. As the night sky slowly gave way to the first light of dawn, Michael felt a renewed sense of purpose. The road ahead would be challenging, certainly, but he was no longer alone. He had the unconditional love of his daughters, the support of true friends who had stood by him during the crisis, and a new mission that gave meaning to his professional life. With one last glance at the horizon, now growing lighter, Michael went back inside. It was time to start a new day, a new stage. As he prepared breakfast for his daughters, he smiled, feeling a peace he hadn't experienced in a long time. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in months, that uncertainty didn't frighten him. Whatever fate held for the Hartley family, they would face it together, stronger, wiser, and more united than ever.